Google have done a wealth of data research where it used to be a point of 7 points of contact to create a saleable lead. That is now merged into something slightly different. It's very similar, but slightly different given we're in the digital age. We were in the industrial age where it was really profitable to create products. We're now in a digital age where it's not profitable to create products, it's profitable to create sales. This mantra, which is directly from Google's stats and data that they recently did on a big research program, which is 7-11-4. 7 stands for 7 hours, the 11 stands for 11 individual bits of engagement. 4 is on platforms, whether it's face-to-face, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. If you manage to have someone consume your content for 7 hours, 11 different times across 4 platforms, that is then a saleable client. Hugely fortunate. So Tyler, running a mastermind in Dubai, contacted me and said, can you come and speak for a few hours on a Friday? I was like, yes, I would love to go to Dubai, especially if you're paying for the flights. And Daniel Priestley was presenting on the Saturday. So I got my notepad out and I was just sat absorbing information from Daniel Priestley. And what I really loved about it is the group that he was presenting to and the group that I presented to, they're very early on in their stage of growing a property business or a business. So he basically started from the fundamentals, and there's quite a few things in here that if you are struggling to raise investment, this will really help you. If you're struggling to communicate with clients, if you've got a service-based business, this will really help you. If you're struggling to manage your own time, if you're struggling to create sales and create demand. So I will go into all of that one by one and sort of share the sheer knowledge and value that he could bring. And he's just such a switched on guy. Like, he literally had no slides, just rocked up, chatted, and I was like, this is gold after gold after gold. He started off with various things, but actually one thing that he really touched on is Google have done a wealth of data research, and where it used to be a point of 7 points of contact to create a saleable lead, that is now merged into something slightly different. It's very similar, but slightly different given we're in the digital age. He said he's very macro, Daniel Priestley, and he said we were in the industrial age where it was really profitable to create products. We're now in a digital age where it's not profitable to create products, it's profitable to create sales. And he used this mantra, which is directly from Google's stats and data that they recently did on a big research program, which is 7-11-4. And the 7 stands for 7 hours, the 11 stands for 11 individual bits of engagement, and 4 is on platforms, whether it's face-to-face, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. So you guys listening to this now, we're building up one of the 7 hours. If you spend an hour with us, that's part of the 7 hours of what you may need to convert as a client. 11 different engagements. So that might be a video, a short, a reel, face-to-face, bumping into in Tesco's. It could literally be anything. And then the 4 is the platform. So essentially what he's getting at is if you manage to have someone consume your presence and content for 7 hours, 11 different times, and 4 across 4 platforms, that is then a saleable client. And he said every business should be scaling to get that to as many people as they possibly can, so that you build a following, and then you can obviously position how you want to benefit the business from that particular outfit. Thinking from investors, if you've had a phone call with an investor and you send them a deal and say, look, I've got this deal, would you want to send me the money? Otherwise I'm going to get another investor involved. Have they been through the 7 hours, 11 touch points on 4 mediums? And think about that. So you might actually want to meet them face to face. You might want to say, hey, go check out our Instagram channel. You can actually see a lot of what we're doing day to day, and feeding that trust into them. And weirdly, only in the last sort of couple of years since we've been growing our channel, it does work. You get people walk up to you. And I actually did this to Daniel Priestley. When he arrived, I said, hi, Dan, how are you doing? I thought I was his best mate. He doesn't have a clue who I am because he hasn't consumed any of our information. He hasn't built this journey of building trust with us. So it's all about getting people to feel and live and breathe and understand you, which you can do really well over social media. I'd highly recommend. Authenticity is really key. He's really good at it. And obviously we try and be, just because everything that we share is real and the facts. So that's the 7-11-4, which is super interesting with engaging with particular clients. And that actually is engaging, which I'll come on to a point second, is the ideal customer persona, which is your understanding who you want to communicate. The second thing we went through was high value tasks. Now this is kind of crazy when he sort of really depicts and tells you reality, and it's kind of like a slap in the face when he sort of talks about it. But basically there's a chart that's just like a curve like this. At the top you've got high value tasks. That's capital raising, deal finding, meetings with investors. that's hiring, recruitment, that's business strategy, that's doing financial reviews, that's doing all of those high value tasks. And then there's low value tasks like ordering a bath or picking a tile out or doing administration work. And all those low value tasks, business owners should be always trying to push themselves to the top of the chart, to be doing the high value tasks, because they're almost unemployable. It would be super difficult for us to bring someone into the company and hire them to capital raise, because a lot of our investors want to invest in us. They want to see us. They want to spend time, chat to us, understand how we operate our business, how we manage those risks. So that is a really key life changer for me. And what I'm going to be doing is I track my time on Toggle, and I'm going to be now coding the high value tasks and low value tasks to try and push compounding value of pushing those tasks from low value to high value tasks. The ideal customer persona is essentially understanding who it is that you want to be selling to. It could be called the avatar. I think avatar is more of like a marketing, understanding who you want to communicate with and how. And then what's really important in moving on to the next process is their current reality and their desired reality. So that's the difference between them buying a product. So for an example, they want to buy a new car. The current reality is they don't have a car. The desired reality is they have a car. The obstacle in between is where money is made. That's the arbitrage value. And that's where businesses create value. So what you have to try and do is create a very seamless process for them to do that. But you have to understand exactly what their current reality is, what their desired reality is, and why they haven't got understanding the problem. And solving the problem is really, really key. Second to last is signal of interest in creating demand. Now, he's amazing at this, and we talked about this at length. And it's basically, often you might go into business where there isn't a demand for your product yet, and it's how do you create that demand? So, he uses an example of if you have 100 units to sell and you basically started pushing marketing, so email marketing, Facebook marketing, sponsored ads, whatever it may be, you might get a trickle of sales if the price point's right and the product's right and you've marketed well. But his view is if you always create a cap or create a limited period of time and then request a signal of interest. So for example, let's say he wants to sell 100 units, like I just said, and rather than incremental sales going up and up and up, he goes, actually, I've got 100 units, but I'm going to tell everyone I've only got 10. So I'm going to take expressions of interest to sell only 10. When the 10 are gone, they're gone. You'd have probably noticed that I said that in our boardroom. That's not a coincidence. Our boardroom does get full, so it's not a lie there. But creating that demand, and that's essentially all it is. What he then said is you might get 150 inquiries of signals of interest, or let's even call it 30, and then you can close those 30 out to ensure that you get better sales progression and build a bit more hype around it. And that is pretty cool, to build demand and desire from like day one. He also talks similar to what I learned at Goldman Sachs with the Simon Sinek Y model, but Daniel Priestley is actually a tree, a nice apple tree. The apples on the tree are your products. So for us, it's flats, surveys, architectural drawings, HMO bedrooms, but that is the product. And often the product is what is being marketed and fed to the buyers first. You think as a business owner, like we did in XP Surveys, we think, what do we sell? Right, we do drone surveys, we do measure surveys, we do topographical surveys. But the architect doesn't actually care what you're doing. They obviously use your product. You're educating them what you do, but the why is way more important. So the why in our surveying business is we save architects time and money. And that is essentially the why. The what is actually because we deliver a better product and we sit down with our architects and adapt our product so that it fits better into their process and they have to spend less time cleaning up drawings. The actual why is the message that you push through, and that's really, really important. Last but not least, we talked about like introducing yourself. I love it. Like how simple can it get? I'm there in Dubai. I feel like I've got a fairly good elevator pitch. I've been tested a few times in front of audiences when we stand up and do a 20-second pitch, but it's also really useful in your day-to-day. And he talked about the effective way to communicate and to do introductions. And the way that he typically does it is he normally starts with a bit of an origin story. So what got you into what you got you into and why you're best placed to do that. Your mission, which is what you want to really achieve in that industry, which is kind of like your 3-year goals. and then a 3-week goal as well. So it's actually 3 months, that's a typo. So you've got your mission, which is the 3-year goal, and then you've got your sort of the next steps, which is your 3-month goal. So to give you an example, obviously my name's Jack Jiggins, property developer. I grew up on a building site and now I've got my own development company that we're running collectively with Ben. Our mission is to deliver £1 billion worth of property before 2040. And in the next 3 weeks, we need to close off 2 projects and capital raise X amount. Now, what you're feeding there is you're letting them know what you're going to be doing long term. You're letting them know what you're going to be doing short term so they can give you introductions, resource ideas, questions, whatever it may be. Whereas before, my introductions used to be, I'm Jack from XP Property. I run a property development business in Oxfordshire, but you're not giving them anything to help you. And it's all about communicating that and giving them the chance to help. Humans like engaging, connecting with other humans. Humans like helping others and sort of giving back. And that is what you're trying to put on a platter, basically, for them to particularly help you. He said that once you start doing this, you will start meeting some interesting people and they'll make interesting introductions and then it'll get better and better and better. And eventually you might raise that capital that you need or get the introduction that you need. For me, having been surrounded by a lot of people in retail in Goldman Sachs, I think this is an absolute game changer for your business model, just to get your intro dialed down, because a lot of retail is getting indoors. If you ran a product and you said in the next 3 months, my mission is to get into Waitrose, if you said that to everyone you met, I can almost guarantee eventually you'll get an introduction that helps you get on that step to where you need to be. So super insightful. He actually believes that between 10 and 13 years old, something happened to you in your life as an entrepreneur that made you the entrepreneur you are today. Coincidentally, I was like racking my brains with what my story was. And I actually think it was one of my direct neighbors was a young guy my age. I think we were about 10, 11 years old. I had this teenage girl who was probably 15, 16 that was raising money to buy a new horse. And the way she was doing it was wash cars. So I thought, that's a good idea. I could go out and wash cars. But anyway, over the course of all of that summer, we washed car after car after car after car between us, and we were splitting the profits. And we made hundreds of pounds as an 11-year-old. I learned a little bit about money management, negotiations, sales, obviously buying product, and being efficient at working. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think that's what gave me the buzz to be like, actually, this business stuff I quite like. I quite like this aspect. Obviously, I was the one cleaning the cars, which is not very good use of my time and a very low value task. But for an 11-year-old, not the end of the world.